everybody. Welcome to Awaken. I'm here with Pamela Ann, and we have some juicy stuff to talk about today. We are going to be discussing some about meditation, and we've talked about meditation before, but we're going to go into some more details and other things about that we thought you might be really interested in learning to help and incorporate it in your life.
Exactly. And one of the things that we were discussing is that suffering is completely optional, but however, a lot of people can kind of become stagnant in their growth and what they'd really love to be able to create in their lives. They just kind of put it off, they procrastinate. Procrastination can kind of put a nail in your foot, so to speak, of being able to race and love your life and run with your arms wide open to embrace what would really be the most joyful way of living.
Right.
And the suffering is totally optional. A lot of people won't create those changes until they go through like this really dramatic kind of thing that will happen and whoa, really awaken them.
And then they make a lot of choices, like internal choices. They think through things in a different way, and suddenly they make a shift.
Yeah, it can break them loose.
Right.
Break them loose.
Which is kind of, if you think about it, how interesting that is, because that means that we have that ability to make that shift at any point in time. If it's just an event that breaks you loose, that actually means we can do it at any point in time that we want to.
At any time.
And yeah.
Like there's some people that sit back and they're expecting somebody outside of them to come in and save them and rescue them when they, in actuality, they always have the power to do it themselves, and it comes from within.
Right.
Then there's other people who are so busily taking care of everybody else and using those other people as an excuse for them not moving forward, and then something might happen with them, like they could die. That other person, and then they're like, well, where's my excuse now?
Right.
You know, now what do I do? So, and I have an example of some of those things that's pretty cool. It's like really cool.
Yeah.
So the other thing is that sometimes our sympathetic nervous system is running the show, which is something that's inside of you. You're not necessarily always connected into it to recognize what's happening. It's more the primitive brain that's running the show. Yep. So sometimes if something happens and you're in traffic and you just like, the people are just going too slow, or they're just, and you start having anxiety, you start getting upset, you start kind of like, that is not necessarily serving you in any capacity, because it starts ratcheting up these sympathetic nervous systems that can cause you to feel these inflammatory markers in your body, and your stress hormones and everything else.
Right.
And really, is that serving you, or is that tanking you?
Right.
Or you can shift over the other way and just kind of relax, put on some nice music, and trust that you can shift time and energy to still get to where you're supposed to get in a great manner, and to where it's still going to be harmonious for the people you're going to be working with. Like I experienced that today, coming over to see you. I left in plenty of time, and when I got in the car and I was traveling on the road, I only had a mile to go before I could get in the freeway, and it's just like so fast. And it took me like 15 minutes just stuck in traffic for a mile. And I thought, well, I could get worked up about this and get all like tanked before I came to be with you and enjoyed my time with you, which would have really tanked the quality of how even my physical and spiritual body was feeling, and emotional body as well. And how would that serve us?
Right.
You know? And I would have been all worked up, and I called you ahead of time and let you know, hey, this is what's going on, and you were so wonderful and understanding. And we got here, and yeah, we're good to go.
Maybe sometimes allowing to let go of what you don't have control over.
Right.
You know, because sometimes there's things you have control over, and sometimes they're not. And so you just let and release and let that go, and know that things happen for a purpose. Yes.
Do you know we have control over everything?
Oh, that's right.
We really do.
Yes, it is true.
Yeah,
that is true.
We really do have control over everything. And so Because if you start diving into embrace, I don't have control over this, then can start that victim mentality, and I'm just left at the throes of the world,
Right.
and I have no choice.
And believing that something outside of you has more power over you than what is inside of you, which that is a lie. It's false.
So you start shifting time, and you start shifting conditions, and you start just letting this feeling of wellness and harmony, and this is all going to smooth out, and it's all for our best interest. And many a time we don't know that maybe just in that 15 minutes traffic was shifted for my well-being and safety.
Exactly.
And that's pretty wonderful, actually.
Right. Yep.
So that's what I've learned, and it just shifts everything, because I used to be like having these feelings of urgency, like, oh, I've got it, you know. And it didn't help anything.
Right.
It made it worse.
Right.
So.
Well, as we're trying to people in general, when we talk about it a lot, changing your thoughts and thinking positive to attract to you those things that you would prefer instead. And then sometimes people might feel like they don't know how to make that happen.
Right.
And you get stuck in, as we were talking about, the things that get stuck out of habitual
Habit.
practice
Yeah.
and habit and programming maybe we had when we were younger. So those are the thoughts that we have been accustomed to having, the feelings we've been accustomed to having.
Because that's what we viewed.
Right.
And so we picked it up from the bigger people in our lives as little kids, thinking, well, this is how we're supposed to act and react. It's more reactive than acting.
Right.
And then we can shift that.
And we can release all of those things. And using your intention and with intentional thought, you can gather it up and release it, and that's what you do in the meditations. And
Right.
I was talking to Pamela about us going a little more into detail for you about the meditations and how to do it. Like, we know we've talked about the breathing and those parts, and to get you centered there, and then some things you can do in your mind, because when it happens in our mind, the brain thinks it's already happened.
You can create your own movie in your mind of how you'd love to be living your life, and release the things that you choose not to have in your life because you've learned enough. This is part of learning self-mastery. And so you can, if you're feeling things that are happening in your life that are no longer serving you, you've learned enough about it, drawing to situations in your relationships and whatnot, where you're just kind of bumping heads with each other and it's just not really working, to start releasing that and focus only on the most wonderful things about these people, or what you'd really enjoy to elicit from these people, even if maybe they haven't learned about some of those things, because you're willing to bring that to the table for them as well. It's not just, hey, gimme, gimme, gimme. It is a mutually uplifting situation. And you can do that in your meditation, or you can do it throughout your day. You can have these, I would say, daydreams like kind of thing, but it's like a little movie going off in your head. And I've learned so many things by doing that.
Well, too, where you imagine, right? How you would like it to be. What you're drawing to yourself, you imagine it as if it's already so, as if it's arrived.
And then it starts happening.
Right.
It starts happening. So you have tremendous power. In fact, that's what I just did even today. We got some doors from some people, and I might table this for another discussion that we can do next, because we're already at almost 9 minutes. But I'll tell you about doing it even this very day, and that's one of the reasons why people ask me to teach them and come to these events and stuff for them, because of the rapid being able to create so in my life, in my business, in my relationships, in everything, because I utilize these things. But I will not get out of my bed and start my day without first meditating and connecting, releasing from my body what I'd like to be able to release in every capacity. And we talked about how your body will show your illnesses and things, because it's just a reflection of what's going on in your body with your emotions, and it will get lodged in your body, and it can create these illnesses.
Yeah.
But if you deliberately choose to turn that vehicle in life called your body in a direction that you love instead and only focus on that, you're not feeding the other negative things
Right.
that will start eliciting illnesses and stuff in your body.
Yeah, and if you do that and you pay attention, you'll notice the shift even in the room. At least for myself, I will start to feel the energy in the room will lighten as you focus on what it is you would love instead. And it will just start to feel like more expansive. It'll feel better. And I think if you pay attention to when you're thinking about your problems or focusing on your problems versus shifting that into what you would love and feeling those feelings, it is like night and day.
Right.
The room opens up, and that is a feeling, that's something to pay attention to.
Right.
And
Exactly.
if you're going down and you feel like an energy that's more, less expansive and more compressed or feels more negative or heavy,
Right.
that's what you know you want to let it go.
And the key too is that you're genuine. If
Yeah.
you're trying to force it and make it and pretend, fake it till you make it, screw that, okay? Because people will not trust you. They won't believe in you. They won't think that you are genuine. And be authentically who you are. Choose what you would love and let that be what ripples out of you and starts lightening that room. And what happens is you're bringing your best to play in the sand pile. And what happens is other people, it starts eliciting their best to bring to you. And there is some really wonderful synergistic things that start forming then. I mean, it's so delightful. It's so enjoyable. Yeah,
Right, because
I
we're
really
all
love it.
connected on one level or another energetically in the quantum field. It's like doing a dance, and when one person changes that step, the other person has to change their step too. You're not doing it the same anymore. And
Quick story on this. Okay?
Yeah.
And I didn't share this with you, I don't think. I may have shared it with you, but it's been a while. So,
oh, goody.
all right, we're doing some design work, some work up in the mountains to build, and something happened to where everything stopped and was not moving forward. And I'm like, what's with that? Because I was like clamoring, like running yippee skippy down the road of life, and it's like stopped. Everything stopped. Now, in the past, way past, I'd be like trying to force things, and I've recognized that it's always in my best interest and everybody else's best interest not to force anything. And then I started recognizing the pad wasn't large enough, it wasn't in the right location. If we had started building right then and forcing it, that wouldn't have been a good thing. And then the actual design work that was happening was not correct. It was unfinished, and so I started having things downloaded. The engineer disappeared, but then he came back, but he was gone for like 6 weeks. Hello? But then he came back and said he's willing to work on it, and we saw the plans. He says, I don't know what to do with these plans. This is not working. And the divine started downloading in me and showing me all the different areas that needed to be strengthened in those plans. And he says, I hope you're not offended. I hope you're not offended by my saying this. And the general contractor was there too, and they're kind of like, we don't know what we're supposed to do. I said, hey, don't worry, I got this covered. So I met with my drafts person, and I sat beside him, and 2 hours later, we had that sucker taken care of. We only had a few little bits and pieces that we're going to meet with each other tomorrow and finish that up, and everybody's good to go with it. But meanwhile, I was like getting a little bit nervous with my general contractor, thinking he might be just like, oh, screw it, I'm just going to go on to another job, all right? And I knew I was not to have any contact with him or anybody else until I got me straight. So I made sure, because I started feeling an anxiousness, and I realized, ooh, that's being disconnected, because that doesn't come from the divine.
Right.
So I quieted myself, I made sure I did my meditations, I totally stopped everything and just did all these other things, took my mind off the whole project, and just had this time to relax in and do other things that were also very meaningful to me. And then I knew I would be relaunched and it would be done correctly. So when I did meet with them, it was great. I mean, the engineer had a twinkle in his eye. He was all excited. He was totally back because he had been really ill. And everything dialed in just so smoothly. But it's because I went in and did what I was responsible for doing to elicit only the best outcome for that
Right.
situation. And they could feel that I was relaxed, that I wasn't upset that the pad wasn't right. I wasn't upset that the guy wasn't showing up, the engineer guy. I wasn't upset about the drafts person. They all understood that I truly love working with them, and I have complete confidence that this project will be amazing. But meanwhile, I also knew there was something else, because the divine told me while I was doing this meditation and stuff, they said, we know also that you'd like to pay for everything with, just pay for it and not have any mortgages or anything like that. And this is part of why we halted everything, because there is this resource of financial well-being that will be flowing in, and they told us when the months were going to be, when it was going to start really flowing in, and that's exactly what's happening.
It's perfect.
It is perfect. It's perfect. So if they put the brakes on something, it's for your good. It's always for your good. So don't worry about it. Just enjoy your life.
Right, just like go with the flow and
Mhm.
still stay in that positive
Mhm.
thought field, thought frame, and the feelings so that it can continue to form for you instead of putting a
Right.
wedge in it because you go off course.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're going to make another video that's going to cover some specific things about people who have been holding back, dragging their heels on not moving forward in their lives with very, very valuable actions that they could allow themselves to have for their greatest happiness and well-being. And yeah, it's some wonderful feedback for you to be able to have. All right,
That's all for today.
that's it
For this one, we will see you next time. If you have enjoyed this and it's inspired you or been of benefit to you, feel free to share it and click on the button below to subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming little talks that we
And
share.
consider putting some comments below of questions that you might have, or maybe some experiences that you had, so we can include it
That would
in
be
future
great.
podcasts. Yeah,
Yeah.
because having feedback from other people is really valuable.
Yeah, and we'd love to answer questions you might have.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.